everybody. Russ and Miami's 11. Hope you're all safe and well of news channel. Please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware every time we put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our lovely channel sponsors, Untuck. Check them out in the description below. Today's guest, he's hotspotting off his phone onto his iPad because his kids are homeschooling, and I can feel his pain. One more week, Ben. One more week. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it.
Holding on for grim death, Russ. I tell you, it's killing.
Yeah, but your kids are a bit older than mine. So Flo's only 8, so yeah, but it's still it's a hard task, isn't it? I've got utmost respect for teachers. How are you, by the way, Mr. Shepherd? How are we?
I'm okay, thank you. I am. I've been working throughout everything, even from first lockdown. We carried on working in the studio. The team have worked incredibly hard to make that safe and secure for everybody. We had to suspend some tipping point filming we were doing, but we ended up getting that done in the autumn. So we've got some more coming up. So fortunately, because I'd have been, if I hadn't been able to work, I would have been a nightmare. It's been bad enough. The missus is desperate for me to get out as much as possible. So fortunately, I've been okay. And it feels like, the weather's turned and there's a little bit of light on the horizon. The gloom is lifting.
Yeah, it has. I mean, the first lockdown was a piece of poo, wasn't it? Really, a piece of piss, rather, really, because it was sunny. It was lovely, 35
and
degrees.
There was an element of it as well, wasn't there, where none of us had that much time at home. None of us had that much time with the kids being around, and suddenly you're going, "God, this isn't." We can spend a bit of time together. And everyone, everyone was making banana bread. We were making crisps. Like my wife and my youngest, Jack, were busy in the kitchen every day making all sorts of stuff. Now, honestly, no one wants to go for a walk. No one wants to do anything creative. Everyone's like, "Oh, so done with this now."
Yeah.
Can we just get a pizza?
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? It's so true. You always be so confident of like, yeah, it's all right. I'll cook it today. I'll cook it from scratch. And now it's like,
no chance.
Can't be bothered.
Can't be asked. No, can't be asked.
Bothered. But also, we've got to look at sort of the small victories and the fact that at the time of recording we're still 4th in the league. That's not a bad
sensational.
Thing. That's not a bad
sensational.
Thing.
So we keep pinching ourselves.
Yeah.
The fact that we played well against City. I think we're one of the best performances against City for a number of seasons on the weekend, and we lost, and yet we're still 4th.
Yeah.
I think that it's testament to how well what he's got the team playing, how organised they are at the back, how brilliant we've become on the break, how sort of how much more decisive we've been up front as well. It's just been a joy this year, hasn't it? The only frustration for all of us, someone was saying to me the other day, what do you, I get asked to bits and pieces for newspaper articles. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get a chance? Who's the first person you want to hug? And of course, obviously it's supposed to be my mum. Yeah. That's the first person I want is my mum. But really, what I really, really would love to be able to do is go to the London Stadium, watch West Ham score and grab all my mates. Yeah. That's the hug that I've been missing. That moment, that jubilation and celebration. Just that unbridled, which is when I fell in love with West Ham all those years ago, was that moment of just that rush of energy and celebration. There's nothing like it. And a season when we've been playing so well and had so many fantastic victories and been scoring goals and really exciting young players and players coming through, and we've not been able to be there and be a part of it. That's what I'm yearning for.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm my mum as well. I'm yearning to hug my mum. Don't want my mum to think I'm not.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. I thought he was going to say he's going to hug David Moyes. I thought that big old.
Well, that goes without saying. Goes without saying.
I know it's one of those typical West Ham things, isn't it? The fact that we're playing so well, and no bugger can see us. Well, obviously I'm still there, so that's all right. But anyway, everyone else.
Oh, you're all right then. Yeah, that's
I'm all right. Don't worry about me. Yeah, I'm all right, Ben. I don't want anyone to come back. I've got car park space. Jesus, how the other half live. But yeah, no, it's and hopefully if everything goes all right, based on Boris's roadmap, then the last game of the season there'll be some fans in the ground. So it could be that Champions League qualification party.
It's surreal, that, isn't it? I kind of, as West Ham fans, ever the optimist, but a realist at the same time, and kind of just, tempering all our expectations with the, we're safe. It's all about getting 42 points or whatever. We're safe. Yeah. We're safe. But the idea that we could end up there. I mean, what a turnaround! What a sensational turnaround by Moyes and the team and the boys.
Exactly. I mean, you could never. I mean, considering West think, sort of June, July time when the fixture list came out, we were sitting there going, "Oh, that's it. We're not going to play. We're not going to get a point till November or something like that."
Yes. Yeah.
And now we are. Now it's just it's unbelievable. I mean, the fact is, we're probably the only out of those 20 games that City have won. We've probably given them the best game since in those 20.
I've got a good mate who's a City fan, and he said exactly that. He said we needed a bit of luck to win on Saturday. I mean, obviously they dominated the game, but he said we've won games and not been run as close as that. He was sure that we were either going to win or we were certainly going to get a draw. So we, and I can remember watching games against City in the past through my fingers, just thinking, oh, please don't let it be a cricket score. And what didn't feel like that on Saturday, did it? It felt like we were in the game. We had a chance. We kept them quiet. And had that header just been on target at the end, who knows? Bloody Diop, who knows? and obviously, from a TV perspective, it's nice that we're above Piers Morgan for once. Yes,
top team in London.
Yeah. So. Not just Piers, but above Nihal as well, with the Spurs connection, which is thoroughly enjoyable every time I message him. I think the memes after the West Ham Spurs game when we came back and it was 3-3 were brilliant from the Spurs boys that do their YouTube channel, and they were laughing about bringing Lanzini off the bench, and they were bringing Bale off the bench, and then Lanzini getting the winner, and then the one last week as well, when we scored the goal and they VAR'd it to see if it was offside. And I don't know if you must have seen it as well. You can't go far without seeing them. And the YouTuber getting really excited because he thought it was offside and then it's not offside. And there's just a sort of a moment of pure joy. But we've spent a long time on the other end of hidings against our local rivals. So it's nice to be able to enjoy that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's my goal would be to finish, if we can, finish the top team in London this season, and that could mean Champions League, really, because based on how everyone else is doing. So I'll take that. But yes, you said, but many years of hurt. It's nice to have a nice set and in the right time. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think I could survive lockdown and having like a relegation. That's the nice thing about lockdown 1. You had 100 days. You didn't have to look at the table or anything, and it was there is a moment there as well. I think because they've shown so much football, I think that's one of the things that's got me through, and some of my mates certainly. There's been so many games they've shown as many games as they can, and you can watch them all on the various platforms that you've got them. So there's always a game of some sort to put on, so you can keep an eye on what's been going on and you can dip in and out. So I think that they've adjusted to that. The broadcasters adjusted to that brilliantly if you can get access to it. But it's just, no matter what we say, it's not quite the same, is it? It's not. Someone, I think, actually the official site put up, I think today, that the last game, the 29th of February or something like that, last year when we beat. I know it's crazy, and when we beat Southampton 3-1, and I put a comment on it. It was weird to hear a goal with a proper like bunch of fans because Antonio won 3-1, and that goal is it was just bizarre, real bizarre thing. It's like even when we had 2,500 for the Man United game earlier this year, and to hear, because obviously I'm sitting there on my own. And then, I turned the Bubbles song off, and I can hear, and on the other side of the stadium, I can hear them, and I got really emotional. Singing. I think it's going to be really emotional when everyone's back in the ground. That's for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think it will be. Just feel like we're coming home a little bit. You're there, you're part of it. You can do your bit, because that's the thing, isn't it? You want to feel like you can do your bit. When the back's against the wall, that the sort of the crowd can be that 12th man to really help you think, and then hopefully the sort of imbue them with confidence as well. That's what we need to remember, is that they've played brilliantly without us there. So we need them to maintain that confidence and positivity. Exactly. Totally, exactly. And you mentioned at the beginning, when we saw your many years of supporting them. How did it start, Ben? Why are you a West Ham fan? What's your story? So I grew up in Epping. I was born at St Margaret's Hospital. Me too. Right in the end of it. I was on the last. I think I was one of the last ones. Born in St Margaret's before it starts becoming a maternity ward. There we go. That's a bit of pointless history.
that you were born and they thought it's not going to get any better than this. We've got to close
They
this
said,
place out.
look, I'll tell you what, we've got the best. We had some bloke.
We peaked.
We had some bloke.
We peaked.
Not going to do nothing. What's he going to do? Game
I
show.
I think I was
this guy.
Good few years before you. I was a good few years before you. So Epping.
Yeah. Carry on.
I was born out that way, and I went to the local state school till I was about 11 or 12. And my family are from the Midlands, so actually my brother and my dad are Villa fans because my dad had grown up there, but they weren't really into football. They didn't really watch it. They certainly didn't go to any of the games.
Yeah.
And then I changed schools and I went to Chigwell, and my mates at Chigwell were all West Ham fans. There was one Arsenal fan, and they were Spurs fans. And it was a couple of my mates. We're still really close now. It's a couple of my mates that took me down to Upton Park that first year, which was about 1986, and we sort of went down there, and that kind of started it really, because you only have to go. I mean, having not been to a football ground and watching a game of football, I fell in love with everything. I fell in love with the atmosphere. I fell in love with the noise. I fell in love with the tension. I fell in love with the swearing, and I fell in love with the sort of the febrile nature. I fell in love with the football. Absolutely everything: the smells, the sights, the sounds, and I was hooked. And we used to have Saturday schools, so we didn't often used to be able to get to games. But if we ever had a Saturday off, we'd either go up to Upton Park, or if we didn't have enough money, we'd go to see Orient play.
Yeah,
because they were a bit closer. Yeah. So we could, and then for years we'd try and sneak in as under 12s when you got to the turnstiles at Upton Park. And my mate Nobby, Jim, who's about 6 foot, I don't know, 3 or 4. He was always tall from the age of sort of 15, and we sort of all sort of try and pretend to be really short as you went up to the turnstiles and give the old boy the money for a 12. Yeah, only 12, junior, please, sir, or whatever. And they never made a fuss, like, in you go, lads, off you go. And just used to love it. And that was when I started. So it was my mates that took me down there. And as soon as I went to my first game and sort of saw what was going on, I just fell in love.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's true. I used to do the old West Ham Orient, because it used to be either or, didn't they? Used to be, one was home, one was away, and you get a season ticket Orient for a tenner, under 16.
It was so much cheaper, wasn't it? Yeah, we'd go with a few quid.
Yeah. I mean, I was because you was cheap. I was Loughton, so not too far. Yeah, so it was. Although we both played for Woodford Rugby Club.
Oh, did you play for Woodford as well?
I remember, and I remember because when we used to have those games, those days where we used to have like it was like mixed teams. Do you remember? Like
Yeah.
One pitch on pitch 2, and I remember you playing on the other side, and I thought, bloody hell, he was good. I remember that. Yeah.
Well, that was my luck. My family are mostly big rugby fans, basically. And my dad, when they moved down from the Midlands and they lived in Epping, and he started playing rugby at Woodford. So I played all the way through from the age of 4 all the way through to playing for the first 15. So then it became, when I left school, did I have a match on a Saturday? If I didn't have a match on a Saturday, I could go and play. I could go and watch West Ham play.
Yeah.
So sport on the weekends, football and rugby just dominated our family life. But it was that West Ham was my club. Once I'd gone down there first time, I was hooked.
Yeah, it's true. We've had over almost 300 people we've interviewed, and everyone's been the same. No one's gone, oh, that first game it was all right. I turned up about 6 months later. No, everyone was like, first game I'm hooked, and it was like that's it. Whether they won, whether they've lost, it's a sensory.
And I'd never experienced. My parents, I think I'd gone to the odd rugby game here and there. I'd seen rugby at Woodford, and you'd play a local team, and there'd be a few hundred people in the crowd around the edge of the pitch, and that was always great. But to be tens of thousands of people, to be stuck in that crowd when you scored, and where you started, as opposed to where you finished the game, you'd be miles away. The only thing was you'd be trying to hold on to your mate as you got swept along by the crowd and the noise and the surge, and you just felt a part of something very, very special. And I still feel that now. Actually, I still feel like the West Ham community is something that's very, very special, and that I really enjoy.
Definitely. And I know you've done the stuff for the Facebook group and the support group. That just epitomizes West Ham fans, I think. Just the fact that what they've done, and even so, obviously, you got your mates and your WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and things like that. And you just see them come out. You know, not everyone's had such a, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I've had an easy ride of lockdown, but I haven't, not half as bad as a lot of other people. And you can see someone's having a bad time or whatever. The West Ham fans all pull together, and it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see. We are special. I know we're biased, but we are a special group of fans. Very much so. Very much so. And obviously, you know, you had it's no point, we've got to talk about it. Obviously, the last game at Upton Park, having to do that as well. I mean, when you got the call,
I've got this thing here, right? I got this thing, right? I don't know if you've seen these, but Clyde Tilsley did the commentary that day, and he contacted me a few months back and sent me this. And basically, this is something that I'd thoroughly recommend somebody, if you're looking for some decent memorabilia for people. I don't know if you do this on your site, actually, but he sent me this, and this is a copy of his program notes from the match. It's going to be backwards, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are, and it's absolutely, it's like a piece of art now. Yeah. And a lot of this is my sort of West Ham memorabilia. But I was just going through some of this because we were going to be talking, reminiscing about that night, the great nights that I've had, and the fact that, you know, our star striker was playing right back that night. You know, I love the sort of the journey that players go on, and we've lived it, and every single one of those moments. And look at Mikel Antonio now and how fantastic he's been for the last couple of seasons, and what a linchpin he is up front. And my friends that were Forest fans were saying, "Why are you playing him at right back? You got to stick him up front." And it just felt like, you know, that night, that amazing night, Russ. What an extraordinary occasion. Brilliant. From the start to finish, you know, delayed kickoff, you know, all those things. Yeah. We had, and I was being briefed about what was going to happen and what the delay meant and what it meant from the police perspective and the impact of all those sorts of things. So it was really tense behind the scenes at Upton Park, and my mates were there as well. And I just wanted to see the game and then to go down and then come back. You know, it was all of those elements. You couldn't have scripted it. If it was written by a Hollywood producer, you'd go, that's rubbish. That's absolute nonsense. That's absolutely, that sort of game never happens. And it did. That night, it actually happened. And we were there, and it was a night we'll always remember.
Yeah. Exactly. I was exactly the same. It was it was a right. Yeah, it was just typical. It was typical West Ham, wasn't it? Because nothing ever goes smoothly for us, even for whether it's the team or production or production side as well. I mean, obviously, you know. Yeah. It was a weird day, and I was on jury service that week as well. So
you're joking.
I was at Snaresborough at Crown Court, so not obviously not appearing, being a juror. So my case got moved, so I got up there like 8 o'clock and just parked the car around the corner, and obviously had the pass, and just spent like 3 hours walking around. I had a wee in the players' changing room. I had to make sure should have had
amazing
dump in the away. And you're right, like everything, and obviously all the fireworks had to get moved. And we had Jeff on here from the Cotty Rejects, and it was pissing it down. Oh, it's just typical.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. So they planned for everything, and then the heavens opened as well. Yeah. And then they had the taxis going round.
Yeah, Billy didn't turn up.
And what I'd So what I'd been led to believe was that actually Sky only decided to televise it very last minute. Yes. They were going to finish their coverage.
Yeah.
And then so the whole of that post-game celebration was for the fans in the stadium. Yep. It was the people that could be there. So it was designed and devised for fans in the crowd, right? It wasn't devised for people on television.
Yeah.
So everyone was moaning, going, the sound's rubbish, you can't see it. And that's because no one expected it to be on television, but they stayed with it and they kept it there. Mm. It's only afterwards that half my mates said, "Oh my God, that looked extraordinary. You were right in the middle of it." I was going, "Was it on telly?" Yeah. And I genuinely, I was expecting it just to be for us there. Yeah. And we stood there in the middle of the pitch. The rain was teeming down, but it just didn't matter. Didn't matter. There was an energy that night and a sort of an atmosphere in that crowd. You could have thrown sort of anything at us and it would have just bounced off. It was so extraordinary.
Yeah, it was an incredible. It was just one of those typical things that typical West Ham. And as I said, the fact that we had to do the fireworks at the beginning rather than at the end and stuff. Oh, I love it. Oh, it was just brilliant. But as you said, it was a great night, and obviously then you're having a great season now. So it's all going well. It's all good. Right. Let's talk about your Hammers 11. Right. Okay. So everyone we get on the channel, apart from Harry Redknapp, I think Bish didn't do one, and Nigel Reo-Coker randomly. Didn't do one either. But everyone I've had on the channel has given their 11. So the idea being is you can pick based on whatever criteria you want, the best, the worst, the cult heroes, your favourites, whatever. But the only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. Now, to be honest, you started going about 86, so you haven't got a bad group to look at, to be perfectly honest. But that's just my own opinion.
No.
You've done well. So that's what we try and do. We try and keep it to a 4-4-2 if we can, but if not, I'm not bothered. It's just a bit of fun. Just a bit of fun, Ben. So let's start off between the sticks. Who would be in goal for the Shepherd 11? That's the question we're all asking.
Well, there's obviously a few. And I put this, I said to a couple of my West Ham fans that I was doing this, and it's probably the worst thing you can do, because as soon as you start saying anything, you get grief from friends and mates and stuff. So genuinely, the people I've chosen are there's a reason for each and every one of them, and it might not make the best team in the world, but they're a team that means quite a lot to me. But firstly, Phil Parks, like Parksy in goal, I would love to put him in because of his moustache.
Yep.
Because he has the greatest moustache that I've been lucky enough to play. This Boys of 86 shirt I've got, I've been lucky enough to play with the boys. So from years ago, I got to meet, I think it was the first time I played at Upton Park, and the Boys of 86 used to have a six-a-side tournament that people could come and play in. And TC, I think, I met at Sky, and he invited me to come and play. And we've been friends ever since. And so I met Parksy and his moustache. And once you meet the moustache, you never forget it. And what I know now, as well, is what an extraordinary goalkeeper he was. I didn't see him play a lot though, but he's one of my favourite keepers. The other two that I sort of hugely admire would be Xhaka.
Yeah. Because
he was such a brilliant character.
Yeah.
He was such an amazing character for us. And then, more importantly, I think more recently is Fabianski, because when Fabianski came, I don't think anybody expected him to have the impact that he has had. I think, we all thought, okay, he's been a decent keeper here and there, but relatively underwhelmed by the idea. But he has just been superb. I think start of last season, wasn't it, where he got injured, and all of a sudden the confidence in the back four went. We'll not talk about the goalkeeper that they brought in, which clearly was a huge mistake. And then him coming back, and how much that lifted everybody's confidence and stuff. And he's been awesome. So I think just purely because of the impact that he's had more recently, the expectation, and how he's exceeded that expectation, I'd put Fabianski in goal. But it was a close run thing with him and the moustache.
Yeah, he was in mine. I can see you've got your Steve Krieger picture there. Steve did my 11, so he did an 11 with me as well. Yeah.
Oh, did it? Amazing.
Yeah.
Love
so
it.
Fabianski was my number one as well. Right. Okay, we'll put Fabianski in goal. Okay, let's go left back. Who should we have left back then, Ben?
Who do you think?
Razvan Rat.
Put the Rat in. It's not the Rat, interestingly. It's although I'm a big fan of the Rat. We used to have a lot of fun watching the Rat play. Putting Dixie at left back. I have been lucky enough to play with Julian in a Paolo Di Canio invitation game at Swindon a few years back, and Dixie was playing, and it was, I don't often get starstruck.
Yeah.
I do a job that I love, and I meet a lot of incredible people that have done extraordinary things, and more often than not, it's just great to chat to them. Yeah. I was absolutely lost for words playing with Dixie. He epitomizes everything that we've always loved about players, wearing your heart on your sleeve, just giving everything for the club. And I think was hugely underrated beyond our club. I think should have been celebrated way wider than he ever has been. And I just loved watching him play. I loved everything about him. I love watching clips of him from back in the day as well.
Yeah, me too. And I'm the same with you. I've been fortunate. I think on this channel, we've interviewed something almost 60 ex-players for West Ham, and Julian was the one I got really starstruck on. He was a lovely guy, really sweet guy. Him and Pete Butler, randomly. Good old Pete Butler.
Really?
I love Pete Butler.
Does anybody not put Dixie in their 11 though?
Yeah, he would do, because it's a generational thing. So some people might put Lampard Senior. Because obviously Frank Senior played 600 games, and obviously some people, if they hadn't seen Julian play, say would put in probably Cress, probably. Somebody did pick Razvan Rat once.
Wow.
Because of his the reason being because of his Christmas catalogue
Well,
picture in a onesie. Carry on back.
That's a good enough reason for me.
Sometimes you just got split hairs, don't you, Ben? So it's like, what can you do? What can you do? Right, let's put June in.
Yeah.
Let's put June in, man. Okay, who's going to go right back? Who should go right back then, Bim?
Well, so I've taken a little bit of license with my right. I'm feeling right-sided rather than right back. Really, perhaps more of a wing back than a right back. But we're playing 4-4-2. So there could, first of all, I think Sufal has been absolutely awesome since he's come in, right? And we've been waiting for a really good right back like him for a very, very long time. And were it not for this other player I'm going to put in, I'd be very tempted to put him in there just to say, look, I just been thrilled with how well he's played. Honorary mention to Ray Stewart as well, because Ray Stewart from that team in '86, and also because I know he'll text me as soon as he sees this and says, "Why don't you put me in?" But he equally, I think perhaps he's one of the last really fantastic right backs that we've had, and now feels like could match mid '80s now. But the one I want, and like this is me really pushing the boundaries. Although he did play. I think he did play a bit of wing backery in the past, and I want to have him in the team, but I want the player in front of him to be in the team as well. So I'm going to put Tricky Trev at right back.
Good. Love him. Love Trev.
More of a modern sort of right back look, so he can fly up the wing and get the crosses in and get involved. But to be honest, when you see my centre backs, essentially it's like having 10 men at the back with Dix and the other two centre backs. So Trev can do what he likes. He can just go anywhere he wants.
Yeah. Good shout. And I mean, I love him. I love Sinks. And he obviously he comes across. We've had him on the channel. He's jumped on. He's done a few things for us. He's great, and I love him. And he epitomizes what West Ham means to some players, because he's not from round these parts, so to speak.
No,
he played 5 years for the club. When obviously no one's been to the ground since, but obviously they've got these Panini stickers around the outside the ground of all the legends. And there was a couple, and I took one of Bish, and I took one.
Yeah.
And I sent it to Trev, and I said, look what's that. And he sent me back the most amazing message about how honoured he was to be on that wall of legends. And it took me by surprise. It just took me by surprise. But he's such a lovely bloke. I'm glad. And it means we get a retweet because you've picked him. So well done. There we go. All about social engagement.
He's in. But he was, there are some games we've had when me and Cammy were doing goals on Sunday, and we had him in, and then we had Harry come in and talk about that game, the Bradford game with Paolo. I'm sure we'll come on to Paolo. Well, of course we will. He's there as well. But the Bradford game where Paolo sat down and insisted that Harry subbed him off, and Trevor has to dribble round him because he's in the middle of the pitch in the middle of the game. Like moments like that, that just stick in our memory. And it was, am I right in saying it was Trevor's cross to Paolo when he scored the goal against Wimbledon as well? That sort of delivery is the sort of thing you paid millions and millions and millions of pounds for these days. He was such a class player, wasn't he?
Brilliant. He was a fantastic player. And only cost us a couple of million, and Brett Rowland and Dowie the other way. So, not a bad transfer, really. Nice one, Harry.
Yeah, they went the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one, Harry. Okay, right. Centre half then. Who's your first centre half then, Ben?
I'm going to go to Boys of '86 again. A bit of a Rolls Royce at centre half, and also because he'll give me grief if I don't put him in, and that's Gailey, Tony Gale.
Yep, you got to put him in.
So I mean, but just when I think back, and I've played with him. I've played with him a couple of times since, and it's even now to this day. I say he always looks like he's got a lot of time on the ball. He always had time on the ball. I mean, he's a lot slower than he ever was, but even now he's got time on the ball compared to the rest of us when he was playing. And so you always just felt confident that he was there at the back, and he's going to be all right, and sort of we're going to be organised and sort of defensively sound.
Definitely. When we had Reg on the channel, he picked himself obviously, and he put himself captain, goal, penalties. He was on free kicks, and he was first team coach and director of football. And that doesn't surprise you, does it, man? That's all.
Quite right too. Quite
Right,
right
okay.
too. Yeah, no.
Top guy. Right, who's Gailey going to partner in the centres then, Ben?
Rio. It's got to be Rio for me, as sort of he was slap bang in that sort of era where I was really getting to West Ham a lot. I love being down there. That group of young players that we had with him and Carrick and Glenn Johnson and young Frank before he left, and Michael, Carrick, I say Carrick, but those boys had so much. It was so exciting. It was so exciting to see that young fledgling group of Hammers coming through, and Rio epitomised that, didn't he? And went on, and I don't think any of us begrudged Rio. We got a great fee for him. Begrudged him going off and doing what he ended up doing, and having a superb career. So yeah, the Rio and Gailey centre back.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, I totally agree with Rio. Right.
And you see what I mean when I say if you've got Dixie,
yeah,
Rio and Gailey, that means Trev can do what he likes, because the three of them, who's going to try and go past them?
No, exactly. No one's going to try and get past them guys, are they? Right. Okay. Let's move into midfield. Let's go left wing. Who's on the left midfield position then, Ben?
So left wing. So these, I think my wingers could go either side. They can swap and change. Nice. I'm going to start on the left wing though. Although really you might swap them around at some point and say Joe Cole.
Yeah.
I'll have a young Joe in there, because he was part of that crop of players, wasn't he? Yeah. And it was so exciting for us to have young, creative, talented players sort of being groomed and sort of looked after by some of the more suits, sort of the more experienced old timers. And it was, some of the stuff that Joe did. And he was such a lovely sort of young lad. That the world was at his feet, and he just had so much potential. And when he went away and he went off and did his stuff and then came back, I think I did the end of season dinner just after we'd signed him back, and there was a lovely atmosphere, because it felt like he'd come back home again. He was back where we all loved him and adored him, and wanted him to come and be, as the player that we all loved.
Yeah, and it was almost like him coming back was like he had unfinished business. Do you know what I mean? He left a little bit too early to go to Chelsea. So it was nice that he could come back and say goodbye properly. So, because obviously, he'd left and we just got relegated, really. So it was like, so at least
yeah.
So that's good. That was good. No, he's great. Yeah. I love Joe. Love him. And he's fantastic on BT Sport. He's a fantastic analyst.
I think you're absolutely right. And interestingly, I didn't realise this, but he only started playing football really late in life, relatively. He started playing at 11 or 12. I mean, he wasn't a kid that was in a local club. He just started playing and happened to be an extraordinary footballer. I think he told us a brilliant story about his old man getting a phone call from Alex Ferguson when he was 12 or 13. And so Alex was trying to get him to see if he'd be interested in going to United. And his dad didn't know who Alex Ferguson was. Football wasn't a big part of his life growing up, or his family's life. And you think about that now and what he went on to achieve, international sort of performing and playing at the highest level as an elite footballer. We just assume that our elite footballers have started as first thing is kick a ball, and it gives you hope that maybe you can be a late bloomer in life. So Russ, there's still a chance for us.
Still a chance. Well, I'm not being funny. When you're on a soccer age, you could handle yourself, mate. So I think you're all right, man. I think you're all right there. But yeah, fingers crossed. If Mark Wright can get Crawley, then
something like that.
There's luck for us all. Right. Okay. Let's put Joey on the left. Let's go right wing. Who's on the other wing then?
So the reason I put Trevor at right back is because of this guy who is. I was watching one of my favourite games, other than the last game, which was just like a fairy tale. One of my favourite games I ever saw at Upton Park, and I still pinch myself. And I was watching it back this afternoon because I knew we were going to talk about this. Was West Ham versus Ipswich in the second leg of the playoff semi-final in 2004. And we were 1-0 down from the first leg, having played away. And we needed to win 2-0 to go through to play Palace in the final. Palace had won the night before.
Yeah.
And the first goal that Matty Edrington scores is still, I think, one of the most extraordinary moments of my West Ham life, purely because there was so much. We were playing well. We were the best side. On so many occasions, we knew what we had to do in various games. We played well enough to do it, but we never quite got over the line.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was going that way. We'd been okay against them. We hadn't been bad, and 1-0 wasn't a bad result. First half, we've been playing nicely. It was all us. Second half, we just needed a bit of magic to light that fire that would make us believe. And what a bit of magic! And he smashes that ball into the top left-hand corner. And where we were stood, I was right behind it, and I saw it right, and I can still see it to this day. And watching it back, I got goosebumps watching it back. And I didn't realise, because we were in the stadium, but Cammy was actually on co-coms that day as well. So, and I'm now great mates with Cammy and know him very, very well. So it was really lovely just watching watching this and watching the ball get rifled into the top left-hand corner. And there's a brilliant moment in the commentary, which is so typically Cammy, where the commentary guy has gone, Matt Evans scores a belter, smashes the top left-hand corner, and Cammy goes in that brilliant Cammy way. On a big occasion, you need a big name, and Matty Elliott is that name. What a goal he's just scored. And it's just so Cammy that he gets his name wrong.
Oh, I love him.
But within the thrill and the excitement of the whole thing, in the thrill and he just captured, and this is what he does brilliantly, and I adore him now, and I'm very biased, but he just captures the spirit of what the fans are feeling and the energy of that moment. And I've been lucky enough to chat with Matt a few times, and he's had his struggles, of course, off the pitch as well, and he's been very honest about all that, which I think is hugely important. But he's always so self-effacing and so humble about what he's achieved. But that moment lives, like we're talking about, you said to me, you can be anyone you like, Ben. And he might not be the first person that people think about, but because there are magical moments that all of us have experienced as fans of clubs, and that will always be one of my magical moments, that goal, because that goal sort of calmed everyone's nerves a little bit, gave the team the confidence to know, right, we just need one more and we're there. And then the great Christian Daly scores the winner, and we're off to Wembley. Well, it was Cardiff, wasn't it? Millennium Stadium, but we're off to the final. And that, oh man, what a
great
day.
Yeah, that was one of those places, one of those games that people always talk about, isn't it? That Ipswich semi-final, and how the place was rocking. And that was a special. And I remember that as well, because you had Christian Daly afterwards. I remember we gave him the mic, and he was doing this sort of like Braveheart address to the fans. We'll take our freedom, whatever. We're going to Cardiff and we're going to win. Obviously we lost, but but it's like old Christian, love him.
I went, and even watching it, I was back there, even watching it this afternoon before we spoke. I was back there. I was in that moment, and that euphoria of that goal going in a way, he just strikes it so pure.
Yeah.
And what a goal by Matty Elliott.
Matty Elliott. He played for us. He did a job for Leicester.
Yeah. He did, didn't he?
Right. Let's go. Centre midfield.
Blinding left foot.
He has. He was a good, surprising, very, very quick. And he had hair. Matty Elliott was ball as well. And played centre back. Right. First centre midfield, Ben. Go on then. What have you got?
Well, look, I mean, I don't think there'll be any surprise. I've gone for two current players. I think, post Dixie, I think this young lad, and he's young compared to me, but this guy just epitomises everything we love about West Ham. And one-man club, just being an incredible servant to the club, has dragged us single-handedly at times over the line in various games, often does the hard yards without really getting any of the praise. I think is, again, massively underrated for whatever reason, but Mark Noble, again, just a great bloke, a fantastic player, a brilliant ambassador for the club, a great leader, everything you want your footballers to be, and a top guy as well. Nobes is in there.
Yeah, no. I mean, I obviously, as I said, fortunate enough to still be at the ground, and And there's something special about having, and obviously it's not something in modern day football particularly much, where you have like your club captain, is a fan. And I didn't, and I didn't really think about that. And then we played Chelsea last season when we won 3-2 and Yarmolenko scored at the end. Mark wasn't in.
Yes. Oh, what a goal!
Yeah, it was a great goal. Yeah, Mark wasn't in the team, so he was sitting in the disabled area. That's where they all sit at the moment, because it's 2 meters apart because they've got space for wheelchairs. And he was watching the game like you or me were watching it. Do you know, like a fan? And I was like, oh, firstly, I wish I videoed it because it was incredible watching him watching the game as a fan. But he just sort of, I just fell in love with him.
Yeah, living every moment. Yeah,
fell in love with him, man. Absolutely brilliant. Love him. Love him, love him, love him. He's going to be, I think he's going to be, like, I mean, I know you've got dogs and stuff. It's almost like I think he'll be like a retractable dog lead. When he leaves, when he retires, he won't be able to go too far from the ground, and he'll have to be, like 5 meters from the ground and come back, and there's coaching.
Yeah.
And we've had Kevin Keane on, and Kevin said he's already, doing a lot of coaching with the kids and stuff. And I think that's very much, yeah, it's pretty sorted.
It's got to be in his. But I think someone who is a leader like that has been such a fantastic ambassador for the club and all the way through, and clearly has done the hard yards and has been broken in, got into the first 11, played in the first 11, played around all these incredible players, and then ends up sort of still being at the club, still playing at the top level, still doing the job, and being such a fantastic sort of such a fantastic player for the youngsters still to look up to, because even though, like, we know that Mark's probably coming to the end of his time sort of starting, as we've seen, but he's still got a job to do, and he's still doing that with such passion and zeal. Like he's managing that brilliantly. You certainly get the sense from Mark that the club's always, you get some players come in and they're big, they feel like they project that they're bigger than the club, but that's never been the case with Mark. The club's always been the thing that's key. And that's, as a fan, from a fan's perspective, there's nothing more important than that.
No, you're right.
More seductive.
And you're right. That sort of, 15, 20 minute man, that's his role. And that's what he's going to be. He'll come on for the last 15, 20 and he can do that for another couple of seasons. He's fit enough, man. And
let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so.
Or at least next season, at least. So some people will say goodbye to him. You know what I mean? If it's the case. But right, let's put Nobes in. Who's Nobes going to partner in the central defence position then, Ben?
Well, I think the player that we've all been most excited about for the last few seasons as he's grown in stature, and undoubtedly that's got a lot to do with the fact he's been playing alongside Mark as well, and he's learned from him. But it's Declan Rice.
Yeah,
there is something about watching Declan Rice and having watched him over the last few seasons becoming the player we all want him to become. He has this sort of extraordinary talent anyway. But more than that, just embodies everything that Dixie and Nobes has. Absolutely wears his heart on the sleeve for the club. Doesn't stop running from the minute start to the end. He's tracking back. He's putting in tackles. He's putting in passes. He pops up every now and again with the odd shot. And the thing, we can all talk about how much we love someone like Declan Rice. Yeah, so we can all say, God, this kid's amazing. He's going to be fantastic. But I feel like my friends that are Spurs fans or Arsenal fans, City fans, United fans, they're all really getting it now.
Yeah.
They're starting to see, because initially they're all go, well, he's not this guy, he's not this guy, he's not this guy. But now they're all starting to go, to be fair, we can see just what it is he seems to have. And if he keeps going like this, he's going to be an England stalwart for many, many years to come, which is great news for the national side, because we haven't had too many players like that over the most recent history. So when you get one that comes along that feels like he's been nurtured all the way through and is going to go forward and could do some extraordinary things internationally as well, I think that's something that we can all be very proud of. So I'm going to stick Declan in there.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. There's something very old school about him. Just the way he carries himself, just the way he just seems to have like, you know what I mean? It just, and even like the way he interviews as well, you can tell he hasn't had that media trained out of him yet. Do you know what I mean? He's so enthusiastic like we are. It's amazing. And the fact that he's only 22 and he's captains our club and, he's played 100 and something games is just mental, absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. Love him.
He's old before his time, isn't he? He's wise. And I love that sort of having that sort of, that wise head on young shoulders is the sort of thing that is hugely important in a world where there's so much focus on these youngsters and these young players, and it's so easy to get things wrong, and we all get things wrong, right? and you just feel like he's been really well schooled and guided, and is listening to the right people, and that's absolutely key.
Definitely. All right, we'll put Mr. Rice in. Who's going to be your first striker?
I've got so there are so many honourable mentions here before we get to actually writing people down. I've got to mention Super Teddy, because I adore Teddy, and I think, you know, Teddy was for him to carry on doing what he did for such a long time in the Premier League, and us getting Teddy for a bit. I've been lucky enough to play with Teddy as well, and he's just a brilliant bloke, and so incredibly. Whenever we did Soccer Aid together, he was always so incredibly passionate about helping us lot that were Muppets that are trying to play, and imparting some advice or support or energy. He was an absolute gent, and so definitely want to mention Teddy. Definitely want to mention Bobby Zamora, because what Bobby's done over the years and the goals that he popped up with, hugely important to us, and love that. Andy Carroll was a player that I always, you know, just desperately wanted him to stay fit for a whole season. So we got the best out of Andy Carroll, because when we did get the best out of him, you know, he was unstoppable. He was just what an amazing dimension he added. Love Carlton Cole. Carlton Cole was always, you know, the sort of player that again, having him on the pitch, you never knew what might happen, but sometimes it would be magical, sometimes it wouldn't. But what an amazing player to have on the pitch at times. Ricardo Vaz Day, because he scored the goal when I was at Wembley, when we won the playoff final at Wembley. You know, I'll never forget walking down Wembley Way and West Ham colours, the claret and blue of West Ham being there, the sort of thing you dream of as a kid. And that goal and that game, short of the 2-1 again, the 2-1 in the 2-0 in the semi-final, and the last game, you know, being there when we won that playoff final is, you know, is dream come true territory, isn't it? Being at Wembley to watch your team win final, so him as well. But none of,
especially because it's my daughter's due day as well. She was due that day, and I had a really good ticket. I was front row, bang in the middle.
Did she arrive that day?
No, she didn't. Luckily, but yeah. She arrived a few days later. And then a day or two after that, I got a picture of her in the playoff trophy. She's a couple of days.
Amazing.
It was 3 o'clock though. Bang on 3 o'clock. I had my phone in one hand and I had a beer in the other hand. And literally 3 o'clock, the phone rang. And I was like, "Oh God, that's it." And it was like a PPI call, and I was like, "Oh, thank God for that." But yeah, that was always.
I could have imagined that would be your missus just winding you up, going, "It's happened. My waters have gone. Get over here now."
Yeah, come back to Hornchurch. Oh, that's a trek from Wembley. But yeah, no, it was my junior. But yeah, Vastay, man, brilliant. Loved him.
So all of those for their moments and stuff like that, but they're not going to get into my starting 11, because I'm going to put playing alongside Paolo, who I've mentioned 17 times already, and I'll keep mentioning. I get the guy that gets the berth alongside him is TC. It's Tony. Yeah, Tony Cotty. For a number of reasons. One, he is quite possibly the loveliest man in football, and it's just such a great bloke. TC, and working with him and seeing him and being around him, there's nothing. I don't think anyone's got a bad word to say about him, which is very unusual. And then, he was just such a fantastic striker for us. Him and Frank together were brilliant. There's a great pairing, weren't they? Just brilliant, and sort of had something very special. But I just love watching him play. I loved his energy, his enthusiasm, his hustle, his bustle. For a small guy, he had so much strength and composure and balance and skill. He had about size 4 feet. His feet were about that big? Just absolutely sensational. I see him and Frank in these shirts, and this Havco 86 shirt, and it just reminds me of just amazing football, really exciting finishing on pitches where they quite frankly shouldn't have been finishing like they did.
Yeah, totally. Totally. When we've had them, we've had them both on Frank and TC, and yeah, to do what they were doing on sand pitches, they were just full of sand, weren't they?
Yeah.
Stamford Bridge 4-0. You know, that was a sandbank. It was ridiculous. And someone like TC, you're right. It's a strike. I mean, as a striker, you don't get any of them in the Premier League now. Sort of those fox in the box strikers. They're all clever forward, not clever forward, but you know, they're sort of, you know, even Vardy sort of brings up play. Cotty was a goal scorer, you know, a bit like Defoe was, and then, you know, just literally stay up there, score the goal. And
yes,
a lost start in football, I think. So TC, and obviously the last one will be Di Canio, won't it? Be Paolo. I know you've mentioned it. Yeah, spoiler alert, but that is very jealous.
So this is one of my most prized possessions, because this is the one Soccer Aid game we played at Wembley. And Paolo played for the rest of the world that day. And at the end of the match, I went over to Paolo and I said, can I swap your shirt? Can I have your shirt? So I've got his shirt on. And then my mate afterwards, I said, I've got his shirt. And he said, forget that. Paolo Di Canio is wearing Shepherd's shirt. and Paolo's actually got my shirt on there. And I didn't realise that. It didn't dawn on me. But all my mate, and that was just, I've still got the shirt, I've got this picture. He's an extraordinary character, such an amazing person, so charismatic. And when he saw this, I asked him to sign it. He asked if he could get a copy of the picture as well, because he really liked the picture, because it reminded him of what a great night he'd had at Wembley doing this for UNICEF. So we got him a copy of the picture as well. So somewhere Paolo's got a signed copy of me.
Well, when I interview
I'm not
Paolo,
sure he feels the same way about that.
Exactly. When I interview Paolo eventually, I'll ask him the same question. Where's your Ben Shepherd picture? And he'll be like,
ask him. Where do I get in his My Hammers 11 supporters 11?
Exactly. Oh, brilliant. Oh,
you know, we talk about mercurial talent though, Russ, don't we? About players that do extraordinary things, the sort of thing that gets you coming back, the sort of thing where the ball is at their feet and exciting things can happen. Payet had it for a season for us, didn't he? I mean, he really had the little bit of magic where something special could happen from nowhere. And that fella was just sensational. And still now, you know, the West Ham sort of writhed through his blood when you talk to him about it. He's so passionate about it. Some of the stories that Harry tells us about him are just remarkable. He was one in a million, one in a lifetime as a player, and scored the greatest goal that, you know, that the Premier League's ever seen. Still does, with that sort of mid-air scissor kick finish. Remarkable bit of genius. I adore him. So Paolo's up there as well.
Yeah. And he was, and unlike Payet, I mean, Payet was a fantastically skillful player. But what I liked about Di Canio was, as you said, is that Latin flair. It was that sort of, you didn't know which Di Canio was going to turn up, whether it was going to be the, you know, impetuous sit on the floor, you know, whether it's going to be the mercurial talent. And I think that's what makes him my favourite player at West Ham, because he had that West Hamness about him. You know,
yes,
which we all love.
Well, because I think we're talking about, you know, how players come in and sometimes you feel like the player thinks they're bigger than the club. And someone like Payet, you get that sense from Payet, as great as he was for that season, he felt like he was bigger than the club. Now, Paolo at times could certainly behave like that, but I don't think I ever felt like he never really thought that West Ham was the most important and performing for West Ham was absolutely the fundamental thing that he needed to do. And we saw him do it. We saw him do it week in, week out in the most extraordinary fashion, the most, you know, catching the ball mid-game and sitting down and forcing Harry to take him off. And, you know, I just, honestly, I feel very honoured and privileged to have been able to see him play live and being able to see him play for our team. You know, that was special.
Definitely, Ben. No, I totally agree, man. Totally agree. Mr. Shepherd, it's been lovely chatting to you. An hour almost is flying by, as always it does when we talk about West Ham. Thank you so much. It was really
my pleasure.
We got there eventually, didn't we, Ben? We got there. We got there.
I'm giving you the right runaround for us, but I'm thrilled,
no,
honestly.
It's all right.
And you know, the other thing is that it's been an absolute treat to go through and do this. And I would recommend any of your subscribers that are watching, I'm sure they have done it. Trying to do it is practically impossible, and you could change your 11 every month, really, depending on what the parameters are. But it's been an absolute treat to go through and go back, and there'll be people that I've missed out on, and people that would definitely make it in next time and stuff like that. But it's been a treat, and I've really enjoyed it, mate.
Thank you, mate. And obviously, thank you to everyone for watching or listening, whatever you do. Give it a like, give it a share. And from myself and from Ben, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Keep washing those hands. Have you had your jab yet, Ben? Have you had your jab yet?
I'm not that old, Russ. Jeez, steady on.
I've had mine, but it's not because of age. It's because the camera, you can't see it under here, but you know the lockdown body hasn't happened. You know, has
it not been generous to you?
No, too many pies. But I've had my jab anyway. So make sure you wash your hands, get your jabs when you get it. And for me and Ben, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Irons.
Take care, everyone. Much love. See you later. Bye bye.